Welcome, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Leading Courageous Conversations.
I am going to be the host of the shift today, and I'm so excited.
Our speakers will discuss the troubling reports of job losses among women due to the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 pandemic.
And welcome to Leading Courageous Conversations on Anti-Racism, presented by Kohler Company.
Can someone speak to the expectations of gender norms in our society and how this has affected women leaving the workplace?
The health of any community, you can look at the health of its woman and just gauge the health of that community. And so making sure that if and when women are the primary caretakers, that they are taken care of and that their voices are heard in the areas of their needs. And those needs are individual too.
What do women need to feel supported in their day-to-day roles?
I know the imposter syndrome has been talked about on the shift before. And really simply, it's the feeling that you don't deserve to be where you are, that you don't belong, or that you don't deserve credit for what you've done. One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to keep a file of your accomplishments and accolades and review it when needed. Resilience is the ability to grow through these changes and learn through these changes. This takes a new perspective and a growth mindset, and that's important. It's about how you look at setbacks and how you embrace challenges.
But the shift that took place for me, I found myself having to re-strategize, having to come up with a new strategy on how I would do community engagement. And one thing that I just have to be real about, I can remember, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks maybe where I was really just lost. I really didn't know, what was going on, what was the state of the world, my mental health, my physical health, and just my family being well. But after I was able to come to some kind of ground there, I did realize that there definitely is a community of individuals in Milwaukee and a lot of the urban areas around the state that are still in need of services.
The idea that you have to see your the people who work with you as a whole person and not just your employee. Yes. I hope that we move forward in the future with that sense of grace and that we don't lose that.
With the life-work balance, work is life, life is work, and it requires radical reflection.
I made an effort to set up one-on-ones, not to talk about anything business related, metric related, performance related, just how are you doing?
I've learned so much about what it means to change the world as a woman of color, as a person of color, and what that means to manage up, manage sideways, and exploring what my internalized oppression and dominance looks like, and how to try to be my authentic self when I feel safe doing so.
What kind of institutionalized or systemic change do we need to see for women to build back?
So the voices of BIPOC communities, their priorities, their self-determination and autonomy must be centered and respected in order for health institutions to achieve trustworthiness and successfully end racial health inequity.
Let folks know what's available out there to support them at the company and in the local communities.
So that means that despite the systemic obstacles and biases that often show up for women, we are still finding ways to crush it. When crisis strikes, women commonly experience greater setbacks than men, as they often earn less, hold more insecure jobs, make up the majority of single-parent households, and this pandemic is no exception. But it's perhaps because of this historical insecurity that women are exceptionally capable of overcoming adversity.
So I do have a question for you all to consider. Are you playing it safe? Is fear holding you back anywhere? And how can you really challenge your comfort zone? It's more important that we believe less in what appears to be the rules. So break the rules.
Nationwide, globally, we see so many women who are, whether it's raising money or, marching or, at the legal forefront, whatever it is. That was very inspiring to me, and it was something that was impactful.
What are some lessons you've learned throughout your career that you think other women could benefit from?
Advocating for yourself is so important. If people don't always know you're even interested in something if you don't raise your hand and say, I'm interested in that.
And if I'm going to apply for jobs that I'm 100% qualified, I have already
outgrown that job. And I'm going to basically set myself up to fail because a boring, disengaged employee, no matter how talented and knowledgeable it is not going to perform in the way that an engaged employee will.
You're saying no to something is actually giving someone the opportunity to grow in that role themselves.
Having challenging and courageous conversations can be painful, can be awkward, and obviously very uncomfortable. But it is necessary for us to achieve impact and equity, right?
It's going a step beyond saying I'm not racist, right? To me, racism is a spectrum, and it starts off from a level of fear, and then you can move into learning. And then anti-racism is that last part where you're actually growth, and that's where you use your learnings and your teachings and listenings, and you transition it to actual actions.
And I can look back now and realize that not only was I dealing with sexism as a woman, I was dealing with racism, and I was also dealing with ageism because I was a young person in charge. So I think we even talked about this earlier. It's like all I learned to do to be able to kind of survive is just give away all of my like knowledge, ideas, and so on, and try to credit it to a white person so I'd be able to execute.
So for me, anti-racism is the active process of acknowledging, identifying, and taking the steps necessary to eliminate racist behaviors in organizational structures, policies, and systems.
If you're wondering about how do I navigate here, it's about how do I take up space knowing that I deserve to be here. And if I'm unique, that means I bring a unique perspective. I'm not going to sound like every other white man in the room. I have something different to share.
And as I got older in those positions, I didn't see my behavior changing because I was then conditioned to not ever feel like I had any sort of power in management, even though my title said I did.
Wondering if I should say something or how do I navigate in this space. And I realized that being the outspoken person can serve me well in certain instances. When you're in spaces where people don't want to ask questions, they don't want to pitch ideas, I decided to be that person so that after a while people knew that, okay, if no one's going to say something in this meeting, Julia's going to say something. Or if we need somebody to lead this, we got Julia because we know she'll be able to speak up. And so I started to use that as a strength for myself, which actually helped me to get into certain rooms, get into certain conversations, and get into certain roles.
Striving to undo racism begins in your mind and in your personal environment, and hopefully out to the wider world.
Like speak up, like show up, speak up. Like for us to constantly have to defend ourselves or try to like teach people or to like have to acknowledge that what you said was wrong is a lot on us because we're receiving those words at that time. And to all of a sudden to have to be able to then teach how that hurt me or what you said harmed me, when there's other people there that could be doing that on my behalf, that's allyship.
And the people of color around you have been hurting. So this is not the time for you to say, what can I do to help you? Just get started. If you know that you need education, get that education, but start the conversation. Look at your organization and see if there are problems, who can I start having a conversation with to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing and this is not okay.
At one point or another, we all are confronted with situations that call upon us to speak up, to learn how to take the fear out of using your voice and lead these conversations in a constructive way with both sensitivity and civility.
Allies are essential to expand the force that's needed to uproot those systems and hold community leaders accountable for them. Right? Allies bridge the divides while unapologetically standing and speaking against the division and against discrimination within the community.
So for me, an ally, someone's going to be active when I'm around, when I'm visible, but they're also in those places where I cannot be. Are they going to be standing up for me and other marginalized groups, in an active way?
Allyship involves acceptance, support, advocacy for others. Accompliship elevates that level of support, as Angela mentioned in the beginning, elevates that support to action. Right? And how do we create meaningful action? And this is where courage comes in as an ally when you move to that level. But how can we create the action that's needed?
Thank you again to Kohler for hosting this conversation and encouraging us to have this in a public dialogue.
Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We hope to see you at the next shift.
I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your morning and feels inspired to take action and to be courageous in the conversations they lead today and beyond.
I hope y'all have a productive rest of your day, a productive week. Let's leave here in peace and love. I'm sending you all types of love and light, and look forward to connecting with all of you when it's safe.
Thank you so much. Have a good morning, everybody.
Have a great morning, everybody. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Kanita. You did great.